the first part of this incident took place when I was, actually most of it took place when I was a student at the college. I went off to this interfaith conference, and a much older faith leader of another faith, not Jewish, was talking to me as we were walking down a road together in public, in the midst of the conference center where we were, and he reached out and put his hand on my breast and squeezed. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's a very odd thing for him to have done. And I kind of just physically made space between us, and we went into another session, and I sat on the opposite side of the room, and I didn't really know what to do, and went to talk eventually to a friend, a female friend who was older than I was. And her first reaction was, maybe it was an accident. You know, maybe you were just in his way, and my bust is not exactly small. I said, I don't think so. He squeezed, and we were walking down a quite wide road with nobody else near us. I couldn't quite imagine it was an accident. But I filed it away and tried to avoid him and just didn't think any more about it. And I kind of thought in my head, this conference was not in the UK, it was in Europe, and I'm never going to see him again, and the best thing to do is just ignore it. Not the following year I went, he wasn't there. The year after I went again, and he turned up again, and I thought, I'm not really comfortable with this. And I started talking to some of my peers, women of my age who were at the conference, of different faiths, but we were all a similar sort of age. And what began to transpire is I was not the only person that it had happened to. And that's when I said, we have to say something. It's not okay for him just to have a reputation of, molesting people occasionally. There were no accusations of rape or anything like that, but he was inappropriately touching a lot of people, a number of women, mostly younger women, mostly students. So there's a power dynamic with that. And I went to talk to the people who organized the conference and say, this is not on. And I particularly chose to talk to somebody who was female on the organizing committee. And perhaps I shouldn't have been surprised, but surprisingly the response that came back was, are you sure? Why didn't you say something the first time? And more surprisingly, well, actually several years ago we had a similar complaint. And I said, and why haven't you done anything about it? Well, it was only one. It's still part of the piece that as women we have a responsibility for continuing to work on and trying to change. And I can only say that if somebody came to me now in my leadership position as principal of the college and told me a similar story, my reaction would be very different. I would be very much more inclined to ensure that it was taken much more seriously and dealt with in less destructive ways.